Let's go. Here is my story. Monica screamed in fright when she saw me and immediately covered her naked body with a blanket. Denny also turned around, his eyes opened wide, his hands hurriedly gathering clothes scattered all over the bedroom, but a vase flying past his head did not allow him to do that. The man in his underwear jumped out of the open window and ran to his car. My wooden bat flew after him and hit the headlight, breaking it. The car drove quickly away from my yard, disappearing among the narrow streets. All this happened within 1 minute. Yes, you understood correctly. I just caught my wife cheating in our house, in our bedroom, in our bed, and I just came home to change clothes because I got very dirty at work. My new colleague, a young and cute girl, was extremely clumsy. She was carrying several cups of coffee and tripped over her foot. The hot drink spilled on me, smearing my shirt and pants. My boss saw this and was an understanding woman, so she offered me to go home and change my clothes. Under Monica's plaintive crying and excuses, I went to the closet and started changing. I deliberately did not react to her words. It seemed that if I talked to her, all the anger inside me would explode. I could do something illegal and violent towards her. It takes all the willpower to maintain outward calmness. The maximum I could do was tell her to pack up and leave before I returned from work. I left the house, got into the car, and drove to work. My condition showed that something had happened because my colleagues began asking about my health. They said I looked like I had just returned from a war. Well, it wasn't far from the truth. There was a real war going on inside me. Until the end of the workday, I just sat in front of the computer monitor, not reacting to what was happening around me. I only wanted to go to a bar and get drunk with my best friend. That's exactly what I did immediately after work. I called my friend and asked him to meet me at a bar near my house. Probably. My tone made it clear that something was wrong because he agreed to come over soon without further question. Now, I vaguely remember that evening. We drank a lot of whiskey and beer and talked about my divorce from Monica. My best friend helped me catch a taxi and walked me to the doors of my house. Now, this house looked different from a cozy and homely shelter. It became too quiet and empty. There were only my shoes in the hallway. The bedroom looked neat, as if nothing had happened there. The closets, chests of drawers, bathroom, and even the kitchen were empty. Monica took all her stuff, even her potted plants were gone somewhere. It felt like someone had just moved into this house and hadn't finished settling in yet. I couldn't stay calm in the bedroom. Now, it's the most hated, disgusting room for me, so I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. In the morning, my head was hurting terribly. It seemed it was about to split into pieces from the hellish, pulsating pain. I peeled my eyes open with difficulty and looked around. The sunlight coming through the undrawn curtains hurt my eyes. I sat on the couch, and the room started spinning. Nausea rose in my throat. I barely managed to run to the bathroom, where I threw up the remnants of yesterday's drinking. The hangover weighed on me like a truck. My head was buzzing, my mouth was dry, and my stomach cramped. With difficulty, I forced myself to take a shower, brush my teeth, shave, and get dressed. Every movement was incredibly hard for me. Finally, I returned to the living room and collapsed on the couch. I needed to get ready for work, but the thought alone made everything dark before my eyes. I couldn't imagine functioning in this state. I lazily reached for the phone to call my boss and warn her I wouldn't come in today. However, my gaze fell on Monica's photo on the nightstand. The memories of yesterday hit me hard. Hatred and disappointment overwhelmed me with new force. I barely suppressed those emotions. The main thing now is to survive this hellish workday. I'll see what happens next. Despite the bad hangover, I decided to go to work. I felt even worse in the empty house full of memories of Monica, so I wanted to switch my attention to other tasks and change the scenery. My colleagues immediately noticed my detached state. They joked that I overindulged with alcohol last night. I couldn't take it anymore and told them the truth. How I caught Monica with her lover. How he jumped out the window. How my wife left the house. My colleagues were horrified and involuntarily cursed my wife. Well, indeed, my situation could only be described with obscene language. They expressed sincere sympathy and support. Their compassion touched me. At least here, I was understood and not judged. It gave me the strength to survive the rest of the workday, even though I could barely think straight and couldn't focus on simple tasks because of the hangover. After work, that same clumsy girl offered me coffee and a little talk. She asked what I was planning to do now. I decided to divorce Monica. This marriage no longer made sense to me. In the next few days, I will go to a lawyer's consultation to learn about the legal details of divorce and protect my rights as best I can. I was also very worried about our children with Monica. They are only 5 and 7 years old. It will be hard for them to endure their parents' divorce. I wanted to give them as much attention as possible, take them to parks, movies, and zoos, in short, do everything to make them feel needed and loved during this difficult time. Besides, in case of a divorce, I wanted to fight for custody of the children. I felt that Monica couldn't care for them properly after finding a lover. I didn't like the children to grow up in a dysfunctional environment. Their safety and comfort was my top priority overall. Despite the shock and pain of betrayal, I was determined. The main thing is to go through the divorce with dignity and minimize losses for the children, and life will get better in time. After talking to my colleague, I decided to call my parents. Our children were staying with them on vacation. I bluntly announced that I caught Monica cheating and was planning a divorce. My parents were shocked. They had no idea there were problems in our relationship. Despite the shock, they promised to care for the grandchildren for as long as needed. "Don't worry, son," my mom said. "Leave the kids with us for as long as you need. You're going through tough times right now, and your dad and I will be happy to spend more time with our grandchildren. You know how much we love them." My dad also expressed support. What an atrocity on Monica's part. I would have never thought so, but you're doing the right thing getting divorced. And don't worry about the kids, they'll be fine with us. I felt relieved. At least I didn't have to worry about the kids for now. Meanwhile, I could focus on the divorce proceedings and restoring my mental balance after these events. Incidentally, this difficult day was the first time I even looked at my phone. After calling my parents, I saw dozens of missed calls and texts from my wife. Monica was probably trying to justify herself, begging for forgiveness or cursing in response. But I didn't care. I didn't even read those messages. I deleted everything without looking. Instead, I asked my acquaintances if they had contacts of a good divorce lawyer. One friend gave me the number of an excellent specialist his sister went to. I immediately called that lawyer. Luckily, he was available the next day. We agreed to meet and discuss everything. I felt confident that this experienced attorney would help me properly handle the divorce and defend my interests. However, the lawyer cooled my ardor. I had no right to kick Monica out of our common home. That was considered a legal eviction of a spouse, and she could easily sue me for that. Moreover, Monica was fully entitled to return home at any time and demanded that I continue living with her in marriage until the official divorce. In the current situation, the law was clearly on her side. If she does sue me, it would greatly complicate the whole divorce process and reduce my chances of getting custody of the children in the future. I was horrified by this news, so I'm powerless to do anything against Monica. I'll have to endure her presence in my own home for a long time and also risk losing my children because of her potential lawsuit. It felt like a nightmare. All my determination vanished in an instant. In your situation, it's very likely that Monica will get custody and you'll pay alimony. Our objective now is to minimize your losses after the divorce, said the lawyer. On the one hand, now I know my legal prospects and options regarding the divorce. That was useful to understand further steps. The lawyer competently answered all my questions. On the other hand, some things burdened and scared me, especially that Monica could return home at any moment. I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, or she could significantly complicate my getting custody of the children. I felt relieved that I now knew all the nuances of the divorce process, but at the same time, I felt anxious and annoyed by my helplessness. I was also worried about the future fate of the children. This mixture of conflicting emotions made me feel on edge one minute and slightly calmer the next. I walked down the street, absorbed in my thoughts and worries. I had difficult decisions about how to proceed in such an uncertain situation. Over the next few days, I tried to keep it together and not lose my mind over the uncertainty. Monica kept calling me, but I stubbornly didn't pick up. At the same time, I expected her to show up at the door with suitcases every day. On Friday, I picked the kids up from my parents to spend the weekend with them. On Saturday, we went together to our favorite pizzeria and played bowling. The children were delighted. We had a great time. Everything was fine for a moment, just a dad with his kids spending a carefree day. However, closer to evening, the doorbell suddenly rang unexpectedly when the kids and I were watching a cartoon before bed. I froze, realizing it was Monica. The kids happily screamed, "Mom came," and rushed to meet her. She stood at the door with a huge suitcase and several bags. The guilty smile on her face said it all. "Hi, can I come in? After all, this is still my house, too." The perfect day collapsed in an instant. When the children went to their rooms and fell asleep, Monica tried to talk to me, but I nipped all her attempts in the bud. I didn't want to talk about anything. All I said coldly was, "I need to go to bed. I have work tomorrow," after which I started preparing my sleeping place on the couch in the living room. In the morning, I woke up to a noise in the kitchen. Monica was making breakfast for the whole family as if nothing had happened. When I entered the room, she smiled warmly. "Good morning, I made pancakes, your favorite. The kids already ate and went to get ready for school. Sit down, let's have breakfast." She hoped to establish contact and talk to me with such homemaking gestures, but I had no appetite. I silently poured myself some coffee, took a sip, and put the cup in the sink. "I have to get to work," I grumbled, heading for the exit. Monica's whole family breakfast just disgusted me. I wasn't ready to talk to her, maybe later. When I returned from work that evening, my wife approached me again. Her eyes were red from crying. "Listen, I know you don't want to talk to me right now, but sooner or later, we'll have to do it," she sobbed. Before continuing, "I didn't mean to betray you. That night, we had a little too much to drink with colleagues after work, and Denny gave me a ride home, and somehow it just happened. I swear, it was only once. I regret it. Let's try to preserve the family for the children's sake." However, her excuses only made me angrier. Impaired judgment indeed. It was more like she just decided to misbehave at my expense. "I don't know what happened with you and how many times," I replied coldly, "but either way, I'm filing for divorce. Our relationship is over. Now excuse me, I need to rest after a working day." I turned to go to the bathroom and take a shower. I had no desire to listen to her pathetic excuses. The days before the divorce hearing were pure hell for me. I went to work like a zombie, operating on autopilot. My boss even offered me a paid leave so I could deal with family issues. But I refused because sitting at home would be even worse than just numbly functioning at work. That's where I least wanted to be. I only came home because of the kids. It was worth enduring for their sake. As for Monica, she was trying to appease me before the divorce. She cooked my favorite dishes, kept the house spotless, spoke to me gently, and tried not to bother me unnecessarily. A couple of times, she even tried to seduce me physically. But her reconciliation attempts only angered me more. I didn't want anything from her except for this nightmare called divorce to end as soon as possible. Of course, the kids noticed that their parents had been acting strange lately. I was gloomy and pensive, constantly distracted from all conversations. Monica was also not at all like herself, quiet and sad. The children were worried. They didn't understand what was happening with Mom and Dad. One day, my son asked me, "Dad, has something happened between you and Mom? You argue all the time. My sister and I are concerned." I decided to talk honestly with the kids and explain the situation in terms they could understand. I gently informed them that their mom and I no longer love each other like we used to and that soon we will stop being husband and wife, meaning we'll get a divorce. They were upset by this news, but I assured them that we would continue to love and spend time with them, just living separately now. I promised they could always count on my support and care, no matter what. This reassured the kids a little. Monica kept desperately trying to regain my affection. She kept apologizing, begging me to give her a chance to regain my trust. But I only felt irritated. It seemed she didn't want to accept reality. Our relationship was over. I decided to take an indirect approach to make her understand. "All right," I said. "If you really regret it and want to regain my trust, you'll have to do something first. Take a lie detector test to answer all my questions honestly. Second, get tested for sexually transmitted infections to rule out any contagion. If the results come back negative, I may be able to forgive you, but not before." I understood these conditions would sound humiliating to her. I wasn't interested in the lie detector or test results. Still, I needed Monica to realize the gravity of the situation and the consequences of her actions and see how much she had betrayed my trust in her. Maybe then she would finally back off and stop clinging to our dead relationship. To my surprise, my wife agreed to these terms. She kept delaying the lie detector, apparently fearing uncomfortable questions, but she immediately got tested for infections, being confident of a negative result. However, an unpleasant surprise awaited her a few days later. The results showed that Monica had tested positive for HIV. I was shocked by the news. In a panic, I immediately got tested, too. Those were the most stressful days of my life as I awaited results. Thankfully, my indicators came back clean. Despite my wife's infidelity, I had avoided infection. But I now had the opportunity for a special revenge I just had to take advantage of. I knew Denny was Monica's colleague and worked with her in the same office. I understood what a commotion it would cause if it turned out colleagues were having intimate relations and transmitting a dangerous infection to each other. Moreover, there was a risk Monica and Denny had slept with each other and with other subordinates. Getting them fired and subsequently disgraced would be the perfect revenge. After receiving Monica's test results, I scheduled a meeting with the head of the company where my wife worked, explaining the urgency of the matter beforehand to his secretary. At the meeting, I relayed the situation. Monica had cheated on me with her colleague Denny, possibly right in the office, violating corporate ethics. As a result, she had contracted HIV. I demanded they immediately fire her and Denny since their irresponsible behavior could jeopardize the health of all other employees. I reminded the manager that by law, the employer bears responsibility for the health and safety of employees. I described the scale of damage if these two had infected others. In this case, the employer had legal grounds to terminate my wife and her lover to ensure the safety of the remaining staff and visitors. The gravity of it quickly dawned on the manager. He promised to investigate and take necessary action within his authority and current legislation. After such news, he would have no choice but to fire Monica and Denny and demand all employees undergo mandatory HIV testing. When Monica found out about her dismissal, she furiously attacked me. "It was you who lied to them, wasn't it? You accused me of things that never happened. In reality, you were the one cheating on me all these years, and you infected me with HIV. but now you're framing me as the guilty one," she yelled. I just bitterly smirked at these delusional accusations. Of course, it was just a desperate attempt at manipulation on her part. After all, according to my tests, I'm completely healthy and could not have transmitted HIV to her in any way. However, the mandatory HIV testing conducted at Monica's company revealed a grim picture. In addition to my wife and Denny, several other employees had also tested positive. It looked like there were some promiscuous sexual relations between colleagues there, and Monica was far from the only victim of that debauched atmosphere. Thanks to this situation, I now had a real chance of getting custody of our children. According to my lawyer, unlike Monica, I could now prove that I was a healthy and responsible parent. I don't have HIV or other diseases. My wife led a moral and chaotic lifestyle, as evidenced by her workplace behavior, and could influence the children badly. Due to her illness, Monica would not be able to fully care for and provide for the kids, especially now that she was unemployed. I was financially stable and could give the children everything they needed. Thus, if my lawyer and I substantiated all these points in court, I would have every reason to get full custody of the children after the divorce from Monica. Divorce is like entering a new reality where you look at your life with a clean slate. Fortunately, after all that legal tangle, I became a real single parent with 2 kids. Finally, the nightmare was over. I could breathe freely again. I had to sell our house to divide assets with my ex-wife. I temporarily moved in with my parents and the kids while I saved up enough money to buy my own house or decide to take out a loan. My parents' support was invaluable, especially when I went to work. Someone had to look after the children in my absence. Work became my island of safety and stability in this sea of change. My boss knew about the difficult family situation, so she sometimes cut me some slack, allowing me to leave work early. I turned down vacation time because I wanted to find a new home or apartment as soon as possible to get settled so my kids could live comfortably. Gradually, everything fell into place. Calm returned to my life, not my ex-wife's. Finding herself in dire straits, Monica sued Denny for deliberate HIV infection. Fear and anxiety staring reality in the face. That's what she was experiencing now. Her life became like a picture torn to pieces. Every trial was like a blow to her emotional state. Under stress and uncertainty about the future, Monica lost weight. Her eyes reflected fatigue and melancholy. I used to be used to seeing joy on her face, but now it was the shadow of a past life. The lack of peace and the storm of emotions took their toll on her appearance. The sparkle in her eyes faded, and her skin lost its freshness. When she came to visit the children, it was clear she wasn't paying proper attention to herself. Her hair was lifeless, and her clothes didn't fit as well. She seemed to have forgotten how important it is to care for herself. My parents, having noticed these changes, expressed concern about her condition, but she seemed to have retreated far into her inner world, consumed by legal troubles and struggles. Time was not kind to her, and stress left its mark on her appearance, underlining how difficult her days had become. Monica tried to see the kids, but these were usually brief visits. She lacked the strength and resources for regular interaction. Talking about how she would care for the children now sounded like empty promises. I understood she could not provide the care they needed. The lawsuits and her fight for her rights had consumed her so much that she could not fully be present in the children's lives. My parents became a reliable pillar of support for the grandchildren in the absence of maternal care while I was building our new life. My ex-wife was getting entangled in the maze of lawsuits and her difficulties. The divorce revealed our disagreements and Monica's inability to perform the role of caring mother fully. Life after divorce is taking many small steps. First, you dive into a storm of emotions. Then gradually come to realism, a new apartment, new routines, new responsibilities. But somewhere along the way, you realize you're okay, can handle it, and are not alone in this swim. Family, children, they are your foothold. So, I move forward, taking little steps in my new life, rebuilding it anew. That's the story. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Thank you for being here with us. If you would subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go. Here is my story. My wife and I met at a bar in Chicago. She was with 5 people, 2 men and 3 women. I was there alone that night to watch a football game. As soon as I spotted her, I wanted to talk to her. I resisted the urge for a bit, but then she made eye contact with me, and I was smitten. Her smile was so genuine, it made her eyes squint. When there was room for me to squeeze in, I switched chairs at the bar and greeted her. She seemed very pleased with me from the start. I found out she was with her sister and 4 co-workers to celebrate her 25th birthday. I was 27 at the time. I ordered her a drink, and we ended up talking through the entire football game. She joked with me about how I was missing it, but I told her I wasn't going to miss this, gesturing to her. We dated for 8 months before we just decided to move in with each other. We wanted to see each other more often, and it felt like the only way to do that was to share a place. We both worked full-time alternating shifts, so there were many days when we couldn't see each other at all and a few rare ones when we got to see each other all day. Before I knew it, we were together for 6 years. She helped me through the loss of my father and then my mother a week later. She always said I was her rock, but I could only see it the other way around. She was creative even in her empathetic sadness with me. We spent hours each weekend watching birds, marking ones we saw in a book my mother used to write in. I was grateful to have her, and I decided to marry her. Of course, the first year was blissful. I knew it would be. To celebrate our 1-year wedding anniversary, we had a party at the bar we met nearly a decade ago. She was still working the same job, along with her 4 co-workers, so they were there. Her sister and my best friend were there too. We were surrounded by loved ones and truly happy. On a Tuesday, my wife borrowed my car to get to work since hers was being worked on. I had to come home an hour earlier to do this for her, but my boss respected my work so much he didn't mind helping me out when I needed it. The next morning, when I was leaving for work, I saw that my wife had left the windows down all night long. That was unusual. Inside the car, it smelled like cigarette smoke and cologne. Besides that, the gas was much lower than where it would have been if she'd only gone to work and come home. I had fallen asleep on the couch the night before, so I wasn't sure if my wife got home later than usual. At work, I texted her asking why the car smelled and where the gas went. She said she didn't want me to freak out but that she'd given a ride home to one of her coworkers, Jared. I knew Jared ever since the night we met, but I'd never gotten that close to him. Upon hearing this, I sent him a message, and he confirmed that she did give him a ride but said he didn't smoke cigarettes. This puzzled me. Instead of confronting my wife more, I let it slide and made it my goal to get to know Jared and hang out with him. We started going out to play pool and drink together on Thursday nights, and I invited my best friend to come along. I asked Jared not to tell my wife we were hanging out because I needed to figure out something. And I only told my wife I was meeting my best friend each Thursday, so it was a half-truth. Sometime later, my wife came home from work wearing different clothes than she left in. Her other clothes were in a shopping bag, and I could tell she was hoping I wouldn't ask or notice. When I asked, she said she just felt like going shopping and wearing something new. She did a twirl for me. I forced a smile, but I knew something was up. My wife always washed new clothes before wearing them. She started a load of laundry with the clothes she was wearing earlier that day and went to the bathroom. I stopped it and smelled her clothes. They smelled unusual, nothing like her usual scent. I confronted her about it as she sat on the toilet. She said I was being crazy and she didn't know what else to tell me besides the truth. She said she just got new clothes and didn't do anything wrong. The next day, I came home from work just as a red car pulled away from our house. I asked my wife who it was, and she hesitated before saying it was her sister who stopped by for a visit. I immediately texted her sister to ask what kind of car she drives. She replied, saying a black SUV, and asked me why I didn't respond. Instead, I was doing my very best to remain calm as my wife and I ate dinner. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was cheating on me. I didn't know how to prove it without her shooting me down and explaining everything away. I also didn't want our marriage to end. We started playing Xbox together when her phone pinged. She read something, then sighed, just as I asked her who it was. My phone pinged as well. She told me it was Jared asking her to cover his shift at work in 30 minutes because he was unexpectedly invited to a concert that evening. I told her that was weird because Jared had just texted me to see if I wanted to meet at the bar. She stared at me dead in the eyes for what felt like an eternity. I could see her breathing heavily. She said she didn't realize Jared and I talked to each other. Without missing a beat, I reached for her phone. I got a good hold on it, but so did she. We struggled as I tried to pry it from her hands. She kept screaming at me to stop, saying I was hurting her. I finally got it from her and tried to get away, but she tackled me to the floor. I shook her off within a few moments, so she grabbed my phone and threatened to smash it if I didn't give her back her phone. I thought for a moment, but I came to the conclusion that finding out who my wife was cheating on me with was more important to me than having to buy a new phone. I had to see for myself what she was desperately trying to keep from me. I dove into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. She continued screaming in frustration and threatening to smash my phone a few more times before she actually did it, and pieces came sliding in under the door. My hands were shaking as I read her messages with someone named Adam. She'd sent him nudes, and he returned the favor. One of them included his face. So I knew who I was looking for. They talked about their sex, how good it was, and how marital sex could never compare to forbidden sex. His most recent text was asking her if she could come up with an excuse to meet him at the very same bar I met my wife in all those years ago. I barged through the bathroom door, smacking my wife's face with it unintentionally. I grabbed my keys as she screamed after me, futilely trying to stop me. I told her I wanted her out of the house by the time I got back. She expressed her disbelief, and I sped away, texting and replying to Adam with her phone. It said I was on my way and he should meet me out front. I found him immediately, parked the car, walked straight up to him, and punched him in the face. I asked him, in an elevated voice, if he just assumed I would never find out he was sleeping with my wife. A small crowd of people gathered around us, gasping and watching the drama unfold. He scrambled to get up, but I pushed him down at least twice before spitting on his face. I told him never to see her again. He finally got up and stumbled away, holding his jaw. When I got home, my wife was sitting on the steps. She noticed the red on my hand and started questioning me. When I didn't respond, she started begging me for forgiveness. She said she never meant to sleep with him and it only happened once before he started sending her pictures and asking for more. I told her to get out of my house, and this time I yelled at her while looking straight into her eyes. I'm sure she saw no love coming from me because that was all gone. I threw her phone at her, and she caught it by luck, tears pouring out of her eyes like she was the victim. I forcefully told her again to leave, so she went upstairs and started packing. She sat in her car with her stuff for an hour before pulling out of the driveway for the last time. She went to live with her sister, who was an hour and a half away, and she quit her job that same night. It's been 2 years since this happened. We're officially divorced now, but every day since, she sent me a good morning text among other things, trying to get me to respond or show any kind of emotion towards her. She hasn't gotten a new job and she's gained weight. Her sister is on the verge of kicking her out because she has no ambition in life. She tells me all this in the hopes that it will make me reply to her, but I never do. I'm starting a new relationship now, and I know that when she finds out, it will break her down even more. She knows she lost the love of her life, and there's no one to blame but herself. Opus, I am so sorry your wife did this to you. There is never any valid excuse to cheat on a spouse. Marital sex is supposed to be much more thrilling and special than sex with someone you haven't committed to. Being intimate with someone you've chosen to spend your life with is surely one of the greatest treasures anyone can experience in life. Is it not what so many of us strive for? To find and commit to one love that reciprocates our feelings and values us just the same. The moment infidelity happens, that promise and the sacredness of the marital union are destroyed. It can't be repaired or brought back. To need someone isn't enough. You must continually choose that person, the same person you committed to in the first place, because the moment you stop choosing them, that true love is at risk. To keep a love alive, you must remember why you love them and that they are worthy of your love throughout life. Now, let's get into our next story for today. At the time of this story, I, 22, male, had been with my girlfriend, 22, female, since high school. This is a pretty long and messed up story. Sorry for any errors as I'm writing on my phone. I've come to the end of my rope and have no idea how to navigate this mess. A bit of background. I'm male, 43, and my wife, 40, female, have been married for 16 years. We have 2 kids, a 14-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. Our marriage was very rocky in the beginning, but we made it through those tough years and had come out much better from it. We married young, so maturity wasn't all there yet, but we knew we loved each other and could conquer any obstacle that came between our marriage. I'm still not sure whether this was wishful thinking. Anyway, my wife is a manager at a very big advertisement company for 3 years, and I'm in engineering for 7 years. Both our jobs pay well and have given our family a pretty good lifestyle. We were a very tight-knit family. We always made sure as parents that we were there for our kids to create great memories. No matter how busy we got, we always made time for our kids. Honestly, I consider myself a good dad and husband. I messed up sometimes when it came to my wife, but I did anything for this woman, and it honestly shocked me to my core when I found out that she was in a long-term affair, which brings me to the discovery. My wife was acting distant. In fact, the last 2 years before this one were the hardest. She just didn't seem to like anything I did. She kept comparing me to her boss. Yes, I know now, and would always tell me how he would handle this or that. Can't read her mind. Well, her boss can. Don't take the initiative to take her out on dates and make her feel special. Well, her boss does that for his wife. Why was I so immature, I would ask. What she wanted me to do to spice up our love life. Her usual answer was, don't ask, you need to already know and do it. So, I researched, bought books, since I was clueless, someone else had it happen. The answer, anything I attempted was met with either half-hearted appreciation or bitter disappointment. My wife was never like this in the years I've known her. So, I thought that the inability to make her happy was something I seriously needed to fix. Little did I know, it wasn't me who was doing the fixing the entire time. We were very close to her boss and his wife. They also have kids, and the kids loved each other. We brought them to our barbecues, family outings to the park, game days at the arcade. They have been to her house numerous times, and we've been to theirs. It's no surprise that we became close. I would confide in her boss about our marital problems. He gave me good advice. I thought he was a swell guy. Anyway, back to the discovery. I had grown emotionally tired from my wife's demands to better myself or the marriage was done. I was honestly shocked by her attitude because before all this, I thought we had a great marriage. So one night, she was busy laughing and giggling while texting someone. I was next to her in bed and was curious. The moment I leaned my head to take a peek, she viciously pulled away from me. She was angry instantly, asking me what I was doing. I told her I wanted to see what the joke was, and she told me it was none of my business and retreated to the bathroom. I think that's the day when I just knew deep down that there was an affair of sorts going on. I did not have proof, though. I made the mistake of asking her directly the next day. She was furious and denied any wrongdoing. I did not have access to her phone, but I wanted the truth terribly. I asked for her phone, and she refused. Only later during the night did she grudgingly give me the phone. Almost every text message she sent to specific people was deleted. I could tell because some conversations seemed inconsistent, and others downright ridiculous. I gave her the phone back, and we did not speak of it until a month later when I was able to get a buddy on it to check the phone and recover deleted texts. My wife had gotten another phone prior and hardly used the one she handed to me. Some texts were recovered, and it was through bits and pieces that I finally had proof that there was an affair going on. And you already guessed it, with her boss. I just knew if I confronted her then and there, she would find some way to weasel out of it, so I bided my time. I was a wreck, though. All I could think about was how it was going to affect the kids. The situation was horrible, and I cried in front of my buddy. I still did not want to give up the marriage. So, 3 days later, I bought How to Help Your Spouse Heal from an Affair. It's okay if you're shaking your head. I started reading, hoping that if I gave it to my wife, she would stop this nonsense. I wanted my wife back, and I wanted to save the marriage. I had planned on talking to her that said to work things out, but she had told me they had an emergency at work and not to wait up for her. Of course, I contacted the workplace on the day to confirm the story she gave me and received no answer. They were not open on Saturdays. I tried her phone, but no answer. She came back home at 2 a.m. on Sunday and immediately showered and then came to bed. I asked why she was late, and she dodged the question by saying that she already told me not to wait for her. I was sick of this. I did not give her the book I bought. I was suffering, and she didn't care. She saw me suffering and didn't care. I contacted her boss's wife to find out from her if she knew anything. I was so desperate for stability, and to this day, I don't regret doing that. She was as shocked as I was when finding out. She wanted to confront her husband, but I told her he would probably lie and try to hide it better like my wife did. We met at her house to discuss what was going on, and I gave her the little proof that we had. She wanted more evidence, so we both decided to gather evidence on each of our sides and compare them. I started snooping up on my wife more, and she did the same with her husband. It was very easy on her end to find undeniable proof. Her husband was so arrogant that he didn't even delete the texts on his phone between him and my wife. The little texts I found earlier finally made sense, and we had a whole picture of how long the affair was, 2 years. The boss's wife was livid, and so was I. She wanted to get revenge on them, and so did I. They slept together everywhere. Her house, my house, expensive hotels, business trips. It was sickening to read all that. They even sent each other pics, but we decided to ignore the pics because we didn't want to scar ourselves with the images. We wanted revenge, but not an affair ourselves. We both decided that if they wanted each other, then they can have each other. We both drew up divorce papers at roughly the same time. We were dead set on it. Our spouses didn't know that we knew, and we acted our part. By the time our ducks were in a row, they were at it again, this time through collaborating with the boss's wife. We knew exactly where and how they were going to be served. We knew which hotel they booked for their weekend of fun. I personally went there with the sheriff. I waited in the lobby as the sheriff got everything working, and my wife was called to come down from her room. She did, dressed in a bathrobe, and I fear nothing else. She's panicking frantically, asking me what I was doing there. It was quite a distance from our home, but not too far. The sheriff asked for confirmation of her name and information. She confusedly answered in the affirmative and was served. It was very satisfying seeing the shocked look on her face, but I did not want to rub it in, so I decided to walk away, knowing the job was done. She didn't let me and was holding my arm, pulling me back and demanding to know the meaning of this. I told her, "You had an affair, and I'm leaving you." Simple. She started screaming at me and pulling my arm hard. The sheriff had to step in and tell her to release me at once. She did so and started crying, telling me she can explain. I had the wrong idea. It's my fault. I was getting angry, so I left quickly to get home. My wife told her boss, and he panicked from what I was told. He rushed home only to be served there. We did not give them time to get their heads on straight. We blindsided them, just like they did us. My divorce will be finalized in a couple of months. Hers might be taking a bit longer. Both my wife and her boss have been fighting us on the divorces. Neither wants to get divorced. The excuses I hear are that they never intended to leave their spouses. It was a purely sexual affair, nothing more. People have worse affairs and still come out with a great marriage. They messed up and would like a chance to fix the situation. I have asked my wife what she thought the outcome of all this was. She said she was going with the flow and acted completely out of character. She is not that person anymore. I told her she's an idiot. People around me are calling me evil for not giving my wife another chance. My kids know what's going on, age appropriate. And they are behind me 100%, but would like it if we stayed together. My resolve is slipping, coupled with the fact that we still live in the same house, and my wife is going to therapy and reading the book I bought. It's getting harder to stick to my guns. She says she's remorseful and will do whatever it takes. All I tell her is that she's sorry she got caught. And that's all I need to know. She called me a bitter, resentful person who can't look past all the negativity. She apologized for it later, but I know that's how she feels. The boss's wife and I still talk. And my wife absolutely hates that. She thinks I'm going to have a revenge affair or that her boss's wife is the reason I will not give us another chance. She has asked me repeatedly to initiate no contact with her boss's wife, just like she did with her boss. I told her she's crazy. We didn't do anything wrong, and why should I respect your opinions now? See, I think I'm done. I have no respect for her. She still doesn't want to give up and is actively trying to engage with me about her thoughts and processes leading to her affair. I see them as excuses, so I don't entertain her. She wants me to do therapy with her. I've read many places where the therapist blames the victim, so I was like, hell no. She wants me to read infidelity books with her. What is the point if we're going to divorce anyway? She wants to be intimate. I told her she was not going to manipulate me with sex. She says it's not manipulation and she just wants to show me how much she loves me. I corrected her and said, love me now, you mean? People around me are frustrated with me, even my mom, because they say people make mistakes and my wife realizes through her mistakes that she truly does love me. I told people that I will never be anyone's fallback plan. I feel very bad for treating her the way I do. I still love her, even though there's hate there. Am I being unnecessarily cruel to her? She's trying really hard, but I just don't care. Should I reconsider the divorce? People were saying I'm moving too quickly and I will regret it. Is that true? I don't know what's real and what's not. Update, okay, I'm back again. I'm trying for the second time because I've been getting email after email asking me for an update. Thanks for your concern, guys. I understand your curiosity. And I'd like to clear up a few things. Firstly, my wife and I are in a sort of good place right now. It is not because we are reconciling. No, I'm still divorcing her. The last update I posted, which was taken down by the auto mod, explained in great detail our situation. The short version is my wife is still begging for another chance and is doing whatever it takes to get it. I will not give it to her because her affair was way too long for me to get over. If it had been a one-night stand, that would be a different story. But no, 2 years is just a slap in the face. I have gone to a few therapy sessions with her because I'm not a monster and still love her. One session was very good and made me understand that my wife is actually remorseful. She has not been perfect with how she handled the fallout of her affair, but she has been trying pretty damn hard. The second session was a mess, with her upset at me for continuously contacting the boss's wife and her being afraid of a revenge affair. It was the angriest I have ever been through this whole mess, and we did argue a great deal later because I refused to do what she wanted, which is no contact with the boss's wife. That was resolved when I promised her that there would be no revenge affair. I know I don't owe her anything, but she's still my wife until our divorce, and I still want to hold true to my commitment. I have been going to a few more sessions with her just to see her progress. Yes, this therapist is an individual and marriage therapist. No, I'm not going to these sessions because deep down I want to save our marriage. I want to see my wife's progress myself and participate if I have to. After the divorce, I will step away gracefully. The boss's wife is still leaving her husband. Her husband is still fighting her on the divorce. She is as adamant as I am. And I will admit we do confide in each other when we have lows. I still do not see any affair happening. We are just on friendly terms with each other. That's all. She is a strong and independent woman who takes no BS from anyone. My kids are fine. They know just because we're divorcing doesn't mean we love them any less. They don't want to divorce but understand why it's necessary for us in an age-appropriate manner. My wife doesn't work at the advertisement company anymore. She works elsewhere. She resigned shortly after I served her. She has been strictly no contact with her former boss. According to her, she reached out on forums to get help on saving the marriage and used that advice. I've been reading a lot here, and at first, I didn't understand why people stayed with adulterers. But after seeing my wife work her butt off to be a better person, I can see the temptation. She's not a monster, she's just flawed and made horrible choices, which she's learning to be better from. She has offered me everything under the sun to be given another chance. I'm not so sure I have it in me. The closer the divorce comes to being final, the more at peace I feel. We recently had a long discussion about her asking to have a chance after the divorce. She has offered a post-up. I was not completely opposed to it, actually, but it would be a very, very long road for her to travel for me to even consider it a possibility. She seems quite willing, but I don't see how that would benefit any of us, to be honest. A huge part of me wants this divorce out of a fleeting sense of justice. It's the only justice I can get without lowering myself to an adulterer. My mom and I made up after I revealed more about my wife's affair. Although now she's absolutely furious with my wife after learning the details. I don't know how to navigate that one. Update. I didn't want to write here until my divorce was finalized, but I'm just pissed off today and really want to vent. As many of you know, my wife is scared crazy about a revenge affair. The simple reason is that I'm still in contact with and see the other woman she betrayed. My wife is very insecure compared to OBS. OBS is younger, a model, very attractive, and owns a successful business. It makes my wife paranoid that I will give in to temptation and cheat on her as revenge. I still cannot believe the nerve of her to give me the two wrongs don't make a right speech. Of course, she isn't wrong, and I don't intend to ever follow through, but her hypocrisy infuriates me every time. I'm going to visit OBS like yesterday. She gets extremely sad or extremely clingy. I don't know how many times she has thrown herself at me just to make sure that I don't cheat on her back. I reject her attempts, and it only makes things worse. It absolutely floors me that cheaters are this selfish, only thinking about themselves and their pain, while the betrayed have to trudge along and try to pick up the pieces. Another thing, our kids still see their kids. I never go to OBS without my kids. But no, my wife still thinks I have it in me to be as heartless as she was and take any opportunity to bang the woman. Laughable, honestly. Em is still living in her holiday home, begging OBS to take him back. I'm not going to lie. It brings me a sense of great satisfaction to see him suffer the consequences. He is not trying to threaten me because of how much leverage I have on him. He has to deal with the fact that I'm still in contact with his wife. He is allowed to visit his kids anytime he wants but doesn't want to see me, so he makes sure I'm not around and then visits. I pity the guy, honestly. Currently, my wife has been super apologetic. She has showered me with affection, which I simply brushed off. I'm not in a good place. We are having a therapy session today, and I feel like unloading all the pain and hurt I've had to endure because of her. The rage I feel is becoming overwhelming. Next update. Looking through my posts and messages, I realized what a great place this is that gives support to people like us. I have been reading a lot of stuff that concerns infidelity in order to get a better picture of my situation. Anyway, during a recent therapy session with my wife, she requested that I give her a little more time for her to win me back. She had reason after reason why it would be a good idea for me to at least try and see if I could participate in recovering our marriage, not necessarily reconciliation. Yet, I repeatedly brought up the fact that she was only trying now because of the fallout from her affair. She would never be trying if she were still seeing Om. She emotionally abused me for months, and I'm not the type of person to get walked all over, even by the woman I loved. She acknowledged all of her wrongdoings and apologized once again. She has given me so many promises of making it up to me. She wants our marriage to grow stronger than ever before and believes it's possible. I asked her if she was willing to put up with my rage because I have plenty to spare. She was like, absolutely. And she would like me to unload on her whenever I feel like it to help myself process the pain. Usually, when I asked her why she had an affair, I got a million excuses. This time she was forthright and told me there was no excuse for what she did. She would spend every day for the rest of her life showing me through her actions that she was truly remorseful and would never hurt me that way again. She actually unloaded feelings onto me, and it made me understand a bit that she really was very insecure about herself and jealous of OBS. The affair made her ego skyrocket, and she liked feeling beautiful and desired. She acknowledged that the affair was definitely a fantasy and would never last. She hardly thought about the consequences, but did think about them from time to time. She regrets ever having the affair and said she will live with this guilt for the rest of her life. She will probably never forgive herself. She told me she could never hold a candle to OBS, and the reason she was so sure I would cheat back is that OBS is not only beautiful but also a woman with integrity. Not once has OBS ever said a mean thing to her or threatened her. It was all my wife's insecurities talking, and maybe the fact that I was angry at her for betraying me. Here's where it gets interesting. The therapist asked me what it would take for me to consider my wife's proposal. Nothing came to mind. I was honest and told her, a time machine, because what I have now is a sham of a marriage, and I never signed up for it. She told me all marriages face problems, ranging from infidelity to death, and it's how those problems are dealt with that shows the strength of a marriage. I honestly could not believe where this conversation was headed. And I told the therapist to focus on my wife, not us. The therapist told me my inability to listen to logical reasoning might be a problem communication-wise. I did not disagree. My wife and I had a long talk during the drive home. She questioned if I felt emasculated due to her affair, considering she had never asked me that before. I was genuinely surprised by the question. I answered, yes. She shocked me by asking if I would feel better if I slept with another woman. I again told her I'm not more or have a revenge affair. She explained that she was talking about a trial separation where I go out and get my mojo back. She will remain faithful and wait until I'm good and ready to come back to the marriage. I thought she was desperate before, but I found her proposal crazy. I asked her how that would benefit the marriage in any way for both people to be having affairs. She told me mine would not be an affair because we would be separated with conditions aligning with my freedom to see other people in place. I told her that's a huge risk on her part. And she responded that we were getting divorced anyway, so if this doesn't help us, at least I can see what the outside world has to offer. I obviously rejected the idea because it seemed way out of character for her to propose that. My wife has been strangely calm and patient these few weeks. She's like a different person from the crazy, insecure one. Of course, I know not to trust her for my own sake. It's very difficult, though. Even though she doesn't want it, she has been very generous in the divorce. I've seen so many times where divorces get nasty, but not mine. It feels quite unreal to be in this situation. It's difficult to navigate. ETA, let me make it clear, I am still going fully through with the divorce. I'm interested in hearing people's opinions on this update. I have another update in this sore state of my life. Before I get into that, I'd like to thank the people who continuously reached out to me in support. So currently, my wife and I have decided to be civil and spend the holidays together as a family. It will be the last holiday that will ever happen, although my wife is still hoping otherwise. I wanted to do this for our kids' sake. I love my kids. Our divorce will be final in the middle of February for those of you who were curious. We have split everything half and half, although she has been very generous on her side. Still, I don't know whether it's a tactic and she might turn nasty later, but so far she has been nice and confessing is that it's because I have been a great husband and father, so she feels I should get more than fair divorce considering what she has done. That is not to say that she will lose a lot out of the divorce, but I do get slightly more, thanks to her. I have decided to stop going to therapy with her. It was giving her false hope and sending her mixed signals. She has confessed that she has a burning desire to be intimate with me throughout the time I've been absent here, and her understanding that I felt emasculated and undesired thanks to her affair. She has been frequently, and I mean frequently, trying to engage me in sex. In all honesty, my wife hardly initiated sex before all this, so I found it a bit upsetting that she was doing it now. Over time, I grew to appreciate the fact that she saw this as a hang-up of mine and wanted to address it. I've rejected her, though, but she still persists adamantly, stating that this has nothing to do with reconciliation, and she just wants me to feel good and desired. I have cut off contact with OBS for now because things were getting a little too personal for my liking. To the person who pointed out that I was having a revenge affair, I guess you were not far off. I didn't even realize it myself until OBS confessed that she does want to try and see where this relationship between us goes. She insisted that she would wait for my divorce to be finalized before we tried anything. I was very confused and had no answer for her, so we have decided to take a break from being around each other until everything is sorted out. OBS is an attractive woman, but I don't know if I can return her feelings. I don't know how to handle that at all. Someone insinuated that being around OBS was affecting her possible reconciliation with her husband. I assure you that I have nothing to do with her decision to leave Omen. She is done with him, and that's all her. We do not talk badly about our spouses when we're around each other. He recently met me in person to apologize for everything that happened. He was always an arrogant guy, and this experience really humbled him. I did not accept his apology. Call me petty, but I don't care about what that man's going through. I have a question. Is it okay for me to have sex with my wife even if we're not reconciling? I have to admit I miss having sex. I miss the intimacy and closeness of it all. My wife is eager and has been trying everything possible to initiate it. New lingerie, sexting, touching, letters, etc., and sometimes I find it hard to resist. She even threw away burned, and replaced anything that had to do with Owen in my house without me asking her to, because frankly, I just didn't care to know exactly where they had sex. It's not easy for me to switch off these feelings. Is this a trap? Am I being played? Before someone says, kick her out of the house, I have already tried that, and I want her here because it's less of a hassle until the divorce is done. Update. I thought I wasted all these years on a woman who was nothing but worthless, but she gave me great kids and great memories. These things I will never forget and will cherish as a man. But I finally understand I can do better than her, and I'm going to do better than her. I have had a flood of people giving me advice on how to deal with this situation. I finally understand that I deserve better than her. She wronged me, put me down, and made me feel less than. When another man showed her attention, she literally invested her energy in another man. I can't believe I'm finally coming to terms that I'm over her. Only now. Now she does whatever it takes to keep me. Now she's investing her energy in us. Now she wants me to be happy when she didn't care before. Now she wants to be this adventurous person in sex with me. The sex we had was never mind-blowing, but I liked it. Now I see how much I've missed out on through her texts with I know just the tip of the iceberg how graphic their texts were. Now she wants to show me just how much she loves me when, admittedly, she has been quite lazy before. The lazy sex speaks volumes to me. Now she gives me space and is happy and supportive of anything I do, when before it was all about giving her attention and providing for her at the same time. Now she values my boundaries and goes above and beyond to add to them. Now she sees me as the king I wished she saw me as before. But no, I had to knock her off her pedestal first. Now she's the ideal woman, but it seems fleeting to me. Now she is completely transparent with me about everything. She is brutally honest too, even if it will upset me or embarrass herself. I don't think I've ever seen any woman with a constant look of shame on her face before. She wishes this affair never happened. I can see how much she kicks herself every day. I can see the hopelessness on her face when I'm just not receptive to anything she does. She looks so miserable, especially when she tries to hide it. It makes me dislike myself sometimes, but to me, it's necessary. Why can't I see this as a positive thing? Why can't I judge her for her actions now? They show remorse, right? Many people have long-term affairs and come out even stronger than before, right? Why am I basing my decisions off emotion and not a place of mature objectification? Someone else will end up getting the better and improved version of her while I venture into another uncertain relationship. Why not fight for this when everything seems to point to something good in a future? These are the lines I've been given. And I have one answer: I will not accept disrespect. Maybe I was willing to in the early stages of discovery, but I woke up from that quickly. This is to answer the people who have panned me and regularly asked about my situation. I'm going to enjoy this Christmas with my entire family and then move on from my wife. I decided to stop listening to the nonsense I created in my head to keep my wife's control over me and move on entirely from the idea of her. I will not be dating her or giving us another chance. We are over for good. I'd like to say that my wife isn't a villain. And that is true. I want her to be happy as well, but it will never be with me. She has shown me that. I have called OBS today and offered her dinner after the holidays for her support when I absolutely hit rock bottom. She said she would love to. I know this stuff doesn't happen often, but we really supported each other throughout all of this, and I owe her thanks. Before people start talking about how much I planned this with OBS, I honestly did not. My emotions have been so mixed up these past few years that the very thought of another woman never crossed my mind. And it's dinner, nothing else, unless we both want it. But the closer divorce gets, the more I realize I actually have options, and one option has been right there. What about I don't care about the man. I do not think I will marry again. And I will tell this to any woman. Although my divorce hasn't been much of a hassle, I am losing a lot of money still. The whole idea of marriage just seems like a sham to me now. Sorry for being so cynical right now. I don't want this post to offend anyone, but I'm still jaded. I gave my best years to this woman, and I'm starting to realize how little I got back. Happy holidays. You won't be hearing from me for a while. Next update. It's been a long time coming. I did mention before that I would come back and update for the last time here. It's over. My ex and I have officially separated for good. It happened almost 3 weeks ago. For the better part of a few days after the fact, I grieved as if I had lost a loved one. I think it hit me extremely hard that my marriage failed so spectacularly. I've never cried that hard ever since I discovered the affair in the first place. I raged a lot too. Definitely one of my lowest points. Everything has been organized for my ex, partially on my part. For the kids' sake, she moved out of the house, and I'm looking to buy her out of her part of it. She lives in an apartment now, a very big downgrade for her, and it pretty much depresses her. She is still going to the therapist, still invested in reading and studying infidelity. I don't know exactly why. We've had long talks leading to and after the divorce. Minimal physical contact. I know I shouldn't entertain her now, but she's still the mother of my kids, and I want us to be good co-parents. I'm nothing if not logical about the situation. largely thanks to this community and others. Of course, it's the same tomb. She wants to reconcile, and I think it's too risky for me to put myself in that situation again. Unfortunately, I'm not in the mood to give her that gift. This past weekend, I accompanied OBS to dinner with no intention other than enjoying each other's company and chatting. We talked about all sorts of things. Things got flirty between us, and I must admit I was very reluctant to entertain the rapidly changing mood. Well, I guess I should say the night ended in a very passionate way. Sorry for too much information. It was probably the most mind-blowing experience I've ever had. OBS is very much a giver in spades above my ex. I did not intend for it to go that far, but OBS was willing, and I was as well. Learned quite a few more tricks in the process. It was the first time I ever had someone that enthusiastic to please me and not the other way around. I guess I shouldn't call her OBS anymore as she divorced her ex, but for privacy's sake, I'll just use that. I do not think we will take our relationship further, to be honest. I think the hormones and wine got the best of us that night. She would like to, but I am undecided. I need to sort myself out emotionally, and I think she does as well. I feel very good though. People might not like hearing this, but the experience I had with OBS really helped a lot with my residual self-esteem issues. I felt desired, alive, and finally understood what I was missing out on. I will never settle for robotic intimacy again. What was more satisfying was knowing that I was not cheating and did not lower my morals. All things considered, I'm very proud of how I handled all this trouble. I wasn't perfect but did the best I could. I'm probably coming out very lucky compared to many betrayed husbands even if I did lose a substantial amount of money in this process. But it was because I was willing to absorb advice and listen to people with experience instead of going in blind and hoping for the best. For that, I will be forever grateful to you guys. You and everyone who lent me an ear saved me from destroying my self-worth even further. Takeaways: respect yourself. Never ever accept disrespect from anyone else, not even people closest to you. Everyone deserves a healthy, fulfilling relationship. Never settle for scraps from your partner. Every committed relationship should include a healthy and fulfilling intimate life. If your partner is not giving his all to you but did so before with someone else or in an affair, do not tolerate it. I'm not advocating for anything inappropriate. Simply lay out your dissatisfaction. If your partner isn't willing to meet them, do not settle for boring intimacy unless you both agree on it. It is okay to walk away from that. Communicate. I cannot stress how super important that is. If you're ever betrayed, only you can truly heal yourself. It took a long time for me to understand this. There are many more, but that's all I can think of right now. I'll be available to answer comments that you may have. But in about a few hours from now, I'm done posting here for good and moving on with my life. Have a good one, everyone. Update: I have been getting a ton of emails from people who wanted to know how my situation is going. I have been purposely staying away from anything involving infidelity because I still get triggered here and there. With that in mind, I'm still dealing with the trauma. I don't like to dwell too much on something, so I've been away from this site and others in a bid to move on. However, since there are so many people concerned about me, I will ease your worries and give you an update. I'm okay, no accidents. No poof, I'm off the face of the earth. I'm still in individual counseling. OBS is still my girlfriend. She managed to settle her case with O when it came to child custody and finances. She could have been vengeful and taken him to the cleaners, but instead, she handled that situation maturely. There is indeed some friction between the children over all this. We are trying to deal with it as best as possible. We have had to start their therapy to make sure that they properly adjust and understand that the relationship OBS and I have has little bearing on them. But we do consider them important when it comes to how this situation is handled. This is extremely hard because not everyone is on board. My daughter, my ex, and do not like being around each other. I genuinely think both of them blame the other for how things turned out. And I'm not kidding here. There is tension when those two are in close proximity to each other. My ex still wants a second chance and is probably angry that OBS is in the way of me seeing things clearly and not throwing away all we have indefinitely. This woman is so deluded. I'm genuinely worried about her antics. She tried something at a 4th of July party a friend of mine threw. I shut it down, but I guess not firmly enough. I did not believe the people that said she would be pining for me, but you guys were right. She wants to come crawling back in a bad way. OBS is letting me handle that, but she's getting sick of my ex too. Did I mention my ex hates OBS with a passion? I really thought that my ex was changing herself for the better, but ever since I left her for someone else, she's been a train wreck. That's what I still don't get. I treated her better than I treated anyone else in my life, and she treated me poorly. But the moment I basically say forget you, she's doing backflips trying to get my attention. I don't know whether it's something I should be angry about. Final update. Yes, I've seen your inboxes and chat requests. Sorry for not responding. I'm not active anymore here, but I'm very much aware that there are people who have been trying to check in on me and my situation. I'll ease your worries with this update. Be warned, this isn't a happily ever after story. Let's start off with the big elephant in the room. How are OBS and I doing? If I knew a woman like her was out there earlier, I would have searched for her years ago. All jokes aside, I have never had a stronger relationship with any woman besides her because my ex-wife put me through so much. I had little clue what a healthy relationship looked like. I still doubted myself, but OBS has helped me through this and is a phenomenal partner. I'm very much in love with this woman. She has shown me time and time again that I mean a great deal to her, and I feel the same way towards her, nothing more than a girlfriend, though. I'm still doubtful of the whole idea of marriage. We're still doing things privately and involving the children as little as possible in the whole relationship thing, but yes, the kids know we're dating. As for the kids, it was a bit of a rough start. Who am I kidding? But they are getting along really well now. I think it mostly has to do with us being heavily involved in their lives and making sure they had an ear to talk to whenever they had problems. Also, lots of therapy. My daughter and son love OBS to bits. She has a way with kids. Her children like me a lot more than almost 2 years ago. Her youngest even started telling people that I'm her stepdad at functions and outings I took her to, which greatly surprised me. I was worried she felt forced to see me that way, but she said she liked me a lot and I make her mom happy, so she's happy I'm her stepdad. You don't know how emotional I got after hearing that. It hit me like a ton of bricks from out of nowhere, but did put up a valiant front. I like seeing my kids happily playing with OBSs, although they formed a united front to relentlessly tease my son, who is the only boy and youngest of the bunch. Yeah, no idea if I should laugh or cringe at that one. So how about my cheating ex-wife? We are on good terms. She has been working really hard on her own to repair her relationship with her daughter, and I was happy when my daughter told me she could find it in her heart to forgive her mother for what she did. They have been through a lot these years and have progressed well together. Even with that, I don't think my ex-wife has fully accepted that we are done as a couple. She still seems to be looking for or hinting at a second try. She's been going to the gym and still attending individual therapy. Overall, she seems much healthier now, but I don't really care. I've made peace with the past. It's her problem for not doing the same. She talks more with OBS now, which is reciprocated, but OBS regularly regards her with skepticism, which she should, given all that's happened. M is a lost cause. I didn't realize what a mess the guy would be. All that money and no sense. He has a girlfriend now, but his kids despise her and are very open about it. It took me some time to see how full of himself the guy was, to be honest. I don't like his girlfriend either. She comes off as extremely materialistic, selfish, and callous towards the girls. So, to conclude, we are doing better than okay. Don't get me wrong. I had my doubts if this was the right path, but with a lot of effort from the people involved, it's turning out splendidly. No happily ever after, just really happy now. Opus, your ex is probably about to start going through some pretty dark days. Not only has her worst nightmare come into existence via your divorce, which she probably convinced herself she could manage, but her second worst nightmare, you hooking up with OBS, has also come to pass, ruining whatever fantasy she built up in her head about any possible long-term future with you, such as getting back with you and rediscovering your relationship. She will be in denial about it all for years, but the real drama is going to happen when she finally, eventually realizes that it was her own actions that not only burned down every bridge between you both but most of the surrounding countryside and everything else for miles around. Be prepared for her to go full-on mental breakdown at some point in the not-too-distant future, especially if something further occurs between you and your now girlfriend, such as moving together or cohabiting. Holidays and shared vacations are going to be wasted moments for her, so I'd be inclined to keep things like social media posts about such events to an absolute minimum so as to not stoke the fire. That's the story. If you liked it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story. Thank you for being here with us.